Everybody, and welcome to the Conference Championship Game Week edition of the Cover 4 podcast. As Randy Gibson and I are going to hash over the five important ball games coming up, starting Friday night, and then on a bunch of games on Saturday. But before that, sounds like OU has a new offense coordinator coming from they call it Wazoo, Washington State.
Wazoo, yeah. How about that? And bringing back a little bit of a former offensive coordinator. He comes from his coaching tree, if I'm not mistaken. The Pirate himself, Mike Leach, going to bring a little bit of the air raid offense back to Norman.
I think that's a good thing.
I do too. After this past year, you kind of wonder they just needed something. My main thing I wanted to ask you about, Jim, is what do you think about the air raid in the SEC?
I think it works. I mean, he when Leach was at Mississippi State, it worked to a certain degree. He just didn't have the people to
Mm-hmm.
to run it right. Uh, if he had not had suffered the heart attack 2 years ago, I think he's still coaching,
Yeah, me
and
too.
we would have still seen the air raid.
I think
Uh,
so too. It's going to be interesting. I think it's going to help the wide receivers who are teetering on if they want to leave or stay, maybe
mhm.
stay. Some of them
Yeah.
anyway. I don't look for them all to stay, honestly. I Five of them were injured and not really sure what was going on behind the scenes with the injuries all year long, but
Mhm.
Porter is going to be opening, or if it hadn't opened, it may have opened already, but I'm not
It
sure.
has opened already. Arkansas's losing the freshman quarterback, Singleton. He has announced he's going in the portal. So that's not a good thing per se, but they've got some guys that were quarterbacks committed coming in. So
Mhm.
uh, we'll just see what happens. I do know today was the start of the early signing period,
Saw
and
that this morning.
Arkansas, the one big thing they got was they got the number one kicker in the country from down in Texas. They flipped him from Iowa to Arkansas,
Hmm.
and he thought, hey, they had the number one kicker in the country, and he left. He's now kicking in the NFL in Cam Little, and supposedly he is on the lines of Little as far as kicking.
Hmm.
So that will be a good thing for Arkansas next year. Several other signings. I was seeing that it started about 7 o'clock this morning, so it'll
Yeah,
be interesting to see what happens.
I did see this Sooners got Oklahoma's top recruit, Tristan Haynes. He
Mm-hmm.
officially signed. He was held the number one spot on the Oklahoman Super 30.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Carl Albert, cornerback. It's going to be interesting to see. Um, they got some other ones. Marcus James, another Carl Albert product linebacker, committed to OU, uh, and made it. He'd been committed for a while. Made it official this morning.
Yep.
Um, they did. Sooners did lose a commit, four-star wide receiver commit that they've had from Florida, um, flipped to Nebraska. So
That's an interesting flip.
I know that's kind of what I thought too. Um, but I guess the new coordinator coming in for the Sooners, just talking about Sooners, and then we'll go on to some of the other ones. They did flip an Oklahoma State quarterback commit. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
um, the uh, Chattanooga, I guess is what I'm reading here
Hmm.
online. So it's going to be an interesting day.
Very interesting. It's a short timetable as far as the early signing period, and it'll be interesting to see what OU does, Arkansas does, Oklahoma State, and Tulsa, especially with Tulsa without a head coach right now.
Hmm.
So not only without a head coach, I found out Sunday working the women's game, they haven't filled the sports information job at Tulsa yet, which is interesting. They've
Hmm.
got two guys doing it right now, kind of on an interim basis. But as far as a full time SID, they have not filled Don Tomkowski's spot. And there has been a phone call by me to my buddy out in Hawaii, and he might want to investigate it. He hadn't called me back yet, but I may give him a
Hmm.
call after we get done. Also,
I
Northeastern Darren Chiaverini has posted that he and all the other coaches out and about trying to find some new Redmen for the 25 season, and going to be interesting to see how many they might pluck from the portal that leave D1s and convince them to come here and play in his air raid type offense here at Northeastern. So we'll see what happens there. They had a chance to be right at 500. They wound up 3-8. Uh, the two teams from the MIAA have already been eliminated. Pittsburgh State got hammered by Harding, the defending national champion, last week at Pittsburgh. They got beat 45-3 by the Bison.
hmm.
Then uh, UCO, they had to go to the other kingpin of Division Two right now, Ferris State up in Minnesota, and the Broncos got a taste of what it was like when we went up to Pittsburgh uh, years ago, where we got shut out by the Gorillas. They uh, they went up to Ferris State, and the Broncos got beat 78-17.
Hmm.
So Ferris State and Harding meet each other, and Harding's got to leave Searcy, Arkansas, and they've got to go to Ferris State and play them. And that could be the game that could be the national championship game.
For them, yeah, it
Both
sure
of
could
them
be.
teams are very, very good. So we'll see what happens come Saturday in Division Two. They're in the quarterfinals right now. So 2 weeks from now, they'll play the national championship game down at McKinney. So well, conference championship games.
Yeah. So starts
Let's
Friday, like you said. I think the big one Friday for kind of interesting out here where I live is UNLV versus Boise State, and that one's going to have
yes,
playoff contentions with Boise State now in the
sure,
mix.
yeah, and could be UNLV too. Now,
Yeah.
UNLV is coached by former Missouri head coach and former defense coordinator at Arkansas, Barry Odom,
That's right.
and Boise State. They're like you say, possible playoff implications there.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising for me. I just never, I guess they're a lot better than I realized. I just never really took Boise State serious this year.
Mm-hmm.
Still
Yeah.
don't know how I feel about them being ranked as high in the playoffs as they are. If they win the championship, do they deserve to be in? Of course, but
Well, you have to
I,
look at this, Randy, is that uh, they're they're the highest ranked non-power four.
That's true. They are the
So
highest ranked non-power
they
four.
would that's how they would get in, and they would be in the 12 spot. That's
Right
where they
now,
would put them.
right now, some are projecting them to be in the number four spot, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know
Well,
how I
that
feel about that.
I don't know. We'll find about that.
I I'm gonna,
So
and Jim, you're gonna laugh at me about this after my many years of being in the Big 12 and having a bone to pick with the SEC, but I have to admit, I does Boise State deserve to be in that four spot in lieu of another SEC team or in some of those? I just don't think they're as good as some of the other SEC teams that are going to be in the playoff, but not Texas or Georgia, not the championship winner, you know.
right, you're looking
Um,
at Alabama,
uh,
you're looking at
South
Ole
Carolina, Ole
Miss.
Miss.
Uh, but the thing there is, uh, and the committee's got to decide this. Do you take a three-loss SEC team? That's the $64 question. Uh,
It is. It is.
and
There's a lot of,
how far do you drop Ohio State?
yeah, that was another thing that was a little,
Uh, there's a lot of hollering on
oh, yeah.
that ball game. Uh,
Yeah.
they with the scuffle at the end of the after the game where they tried to do the Baker Mayfield with the flag.
Hmm.
They needed to wait until uh, they were in the locker room. That's
Yeah.
what Baker did.
That's exactly
Uh,
what Baker, I was going to say, that's what Baker did.
yeah, it did cost both teams 100,000, which it should have
Hmm.
been. Uh, if I was the commissioner, would have been minimum 250,000.
I was going to say a quarter million if I
Yeah,
would have been. That's what it would have
yeah,
been for me too, honestly.
yeah. That
I just think it sets a horrible example of poor
right.
sportsmanship
Yeah,
on both sides.
exactly, exactly. Uh, but uh, Dave Portnoy, Barstool Sports, he is a Michigan man. He's from Michigan,
Hmm.
but lives back east. Uh, he was ripping Ohio State and telling them they need to get rid of Ryan Day. And I hate to say it, I think he's right because that's four straight that Michigan has beat them and twice at the shoe.
Twice at the shoe, and not really sure that Michigan should have won
No, they should not have won because
that
they
game for
were a
sure.
20
And
they
there's
were a
been a couple
21 point
more.
dog.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of every now and again, I get the fact that you have a fluke, but my goodness gracious, four straight to your biggest rival, that's a tough one to swallow.
Yeah, and the kicking game for Ohio State went in the toilet. I
Yeah,
mean,
it did.
guy missed what was it, three field goals, and they were practically chip shots. And
Yeah.
the kid from Michigan, he was a portal transfer from Arkansas State, and he hits a what was it, 54 or 56 yarder at the shoe. That's uh, that's practically unheard of.
Yeah.
So uh, it'll be interesting to see what transpires. Ohio State, I think, will get a playoff game at home. Uh, Somebody from the South is going to have to go into uh, some places that they never thought they'd be playing in December, with the possibility of playing in the snow.
Hmm.
Uh, Ohio State will host. Uh, Notre Dame will host. Uh, what about that playing at Notre Dame Stadium in a playoff game up there? with
Yeah.
possibility of brutally cold weather. Uh, could look like the game at Buffalo Monday night. So, but talking about the Friday night game that I was looking at, the American Championship,
Yeah,
Tulane
I
and
want to talk about
Army,
that one. Yeah.
Tulane and Army at West Point.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. Army kind of surprised me this year,
Yeah, I think
honestly.
they were surprised everybody.
Army and Navy both, really, but especially Army.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, that's going to be a good game, especially like you said, being played at West Point.
yeah. And then after
And
that, the traditional Army Navy game
I was going to say Army
next week.
Navy next week. Yeah,
Yeah. So that will be, that might be one of the best Army Navy games coming up in years.
could be. For a while it looked as if they were both on track to meet each other in the AAC championship game,
Yes.
which would have
Yep.
been very interesting for him to have played in the championship game and then played the traditional game next week.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That
was
would,
kind of, I personally was kind of pulling for that. That's kind of what I
yes.
wanted to see.
Hmm. Then
Then Saturday,
Saturday, oh my goodness.
a couple of really big ones in the
Iowa State,
SEC. Yeah.
Arizona State at Jerry's place. And Iowa State, they'll have 30,000 alone there. I mean, as far as fans are concerned,
Hmm.
I mean, as well as I do, they travel.
They travel very well. They always travel to Norman very well every
Mhm.
other year. Yep.
Uh, if Iowa State was to win, that kind of upsets the apple cart a little bit.
Yes, it does.
Uh, then they're, they could be wind up in that 12 spot, other than Boise State or UNLV.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
Then the other one that I think uh, could wind up being a game that could flip everything is Clemson and SMU in the ACC.
It could. It very well could. Right now, SMU's being projected to set uh, at number 8 in the playoff. So
Mm-hmm.
Clemson would
And
upset
Dabo
them.
would
That's
love to screw that up,
no. Yeah,
but
he would love to screw it up and get in there in
but
their place.
but he lost the Palmetto Bowl to
Yes, he
South
did.
Carolina
He did.
at home. That was that was a shocker.
That was a shocker. It
And
was. Yeah, there's going to be a lot. There's going to be something. I feel like somebody that's not supposed to win is going to win one of those championship games. I just
mm-hmm,
don't know who.
yeah.
Of course,
Then the
there's
two
two
big
big
ones
ones.
coming up.
Two big ones. Georgia, Texas on ABC.
Yes, and
That I
they flipped that one as far as uh, who the home team's going to be. Uh, Texas was going to be the home team, but now Georgia is the home team, and Georgia will wear red, the red helmets, and as Larry Munson used to say, the silver breeches.
hmm
So Texas will be in all white.
and
So
that's going to be interesting for them. I look for both those teams to still be in the playoff regardless of who wins. It's
oh,
just a
I do
matter of
too.
where
I
do
do
they
too. Just
sit in that playoff. Right now, the projection is Texas sitting at number 2 and Georgia at number 5.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Now
it's going
think
to be
about that one. Number five, 5 versus 12, and you got to go between the hedges.
Yeah. Yeah.
for that game. Then Georgia would travel the next week to play the number 4 seed. So that would be interesting.
Going to be very
The other
interesting.
one is Oregon and an unexpected Penn State
Yeah.
in the game in Indianapolis.
Yep.
So they play that one inside.
Yep. That one is looking at a number 1 seed and a number 2 seed, the way it's sitting right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
I've got to go with Oregon the way they play. That's
I kind of do too. They seem just kind of on a destined year.
yeah. They're uh, they're a ball club that they are they're playing well. Dan Lanning has got them playing very, very well. Uh, all season long, they beat Ohio State at at Eugene. Some people may think that was a fluke, but no, that's a tough place to play up there.
Yeah, it is.
And
It
just
is.
ask
That's
Bob
gonna,
Stoops and OU about that.
yeah. Yeah, we'll forget about that game. That was the
Yeah,
infamous onside kick.
yeah,
I still say Oklahoma recovered that kick.
yeah. Well, you had to also realize too that in that game, Pac-12 did not uh, allow uh, Big 12 officials. See,
Right.
that was a Pac-12 crew.
I remember
Normally, when
that.
you go on the road now, you know as well as I do, uh, the visiting team brings the officials. So that would have been
Correct.
a Big 12 crew calling the game. But that was, I think that game right there set the precedent that the visiting team brought the officials.
I think it did too. That was
So
that's one of those that still gets under the skin of
under
Sooner
the skin
fans.
of a lot of OU people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, talk about OSU. I had the guy who I work with for the high school reunion down at Warner posted that supposedly there's some friction over in Stillwater with Gundy and uh, Chad Weiberg, the athletic director.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, there's some talk that Gundy may hang it up. Now, whether or not that occurs remains to be seen, or if Chad pulls the trigger and says, "Hey, we need somebody else in here." I
Man,
wouldn't
though,
be
Jim.
surprised of a change unless Mike can convince him uh, that he could straighten things up, especially after the way last season went. And they
Last
were
season
supposed
was
to have been pretty
such a
good.
disappointment. Yeah, they were supposed to have been in charge of the Big 12.
Yeah.
I mean, with that offense that they had coming back between Bowman and Gordon and that offensive line, they should have
And
ran through the
it
Big
never did
12.
it never did click for some reason.
Never. Uh, what I'm hearing though is OSU can't afford to buy Gundy out.
No, no,
25 million. I
I
don't think they
don't
can
think
do
they
it.
can do that. I think he's there next year.
I do
Same way
too.
with Sam. I mean, they've already said that Sam's back at Arkansas, which right now he's recovering from hip replacement surgery yesterday.
Hmm.
So he's been battling a bad hip all year.
Hmm.
And he did not coach on the sideline Saturday at Mizzou because he had to get off his pain medicine.
Hmm.
And he coached from the press box on Saturday. So
Hmm.
Williams, the defensive coordinator, and Bobby Petrino, the offensive coordinator, they ran the show down on the field, and they played in 3 inches of snow at Como Saturday. Got beat 28-21, but they uh, they had their moments, but then they also turned the ball over and didn't get a key stop late that allowed Mizzou to win the ball game. So they wind up 6-6, just like OU. So it'll be interesting to see where both teams land
It
come
will.
Sunday night with the bowl games.
It will. It
Uh,
will. Um, yeah, I don't really know. And with the NIL and the opt out and the portal and everything, bowls, they're just, you just don't know what to expect.
I don't think you're going to see as many jump ship, at least what I'm seeing right now. I think Arkansas, the only two right now are Singleton, he's declared for the portal, and Armstrong, the wide receiver, declared for the draft. Now, whether or not he plays uh, in the bowl game, I don't know. But Arkansas got some depth. The only one that I would question right now would be if Landon Jackson will be able to play. He got hurt in the ball game at Mizzou. In fact, they had to put him on a stretcher and they had to take him to the hospital late in the first half.
Mm.
And the good thing about it was at Mizzou, the hospital's right across the street from Faroe Field. In fact, you see the hospital from Faroe Field. So he took just a very short ambulance ride over there. And in fact, he was released uh, in time for them to uh, him to be there for the post game and fly home with the team if they flew up there. And I'm pretty sure they did, even though it's a short. It's about a 300-mile trek from Fayetteville up to Columbia. So, but my thoughts on Arkansas, they probably going either to Birmingham or they may go to the Liberty Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, OU, they could be the Liberty Bowl spot.
They could.
That's uh, that's one they haven't been to in a long time.
Very long time.
That would be a good one to go to for the OU fans.
Yeah, it would.
A, you haven't been to Memphis in a long time.
Right.
A, B, and I'm thinking about OU fans' stomachs.
Mm-hmm.
Memphis barbecue.
Yeah. And there would be a lot there. I mean, it's not that far from the edge of Oklahoma, from the
Ooh, no,
northeastern part.
from the middle of Oklahoma, all you got to do is go I-40.
I-40 the whole way in.
Yep, and that would be about let's see, be close to a 400-mile trip because it's 279 miles from the state line to West Memphis. And it's not that far from West Memphis on into Memphis. So, yeah. But that'll be interesting to see what happens come Sunday night with not just OU and Arkansas bowl games, but the other bowl games and then the playoffs. That'll be very interesting to see
It'd be
what
very
happens.
interesting. Um, I got one to throw by you that's kind of an interesting thought.
Okay.
Some I'm looking at College Football News, and
Hmm.
some others have projected this too. BYU versus Colorado, what many thought should have been the Big 12 championship game, being
Hmm.
in a bowl together. Some of them are saying that. What's your thoughts about two teams from the same conference being in a bowl?
Uh, I'm not sure on that one, mainly
Me
because
neither.
you're going to see each other
Yeah,
at some point in the next 4 years.
yeah.
The way
The
they've got that thing drawn up, uh, I would, I'd like to see BYU face somebody else.
Me too. Me too.
Colorado is going to be a drawing card uh, for whomever gets them, uh, mainly because of Prime,
I agree.
Shador, and all of them, Hunter, and all of them have said they'll play the bowl game. You know, they've already said that they're not going to opt out. They're going to play.
Good for them.
And uh, some people are saying uh, Prime to Dallas to take over for McCarthy because he's going to be gone at the end of the year.
Don't
But
know. From what I'm
but
hearing, he doesn't want to go to Dallas
he
though.
does not want to coach in the NFL. He would rather mentor the kids,
Yeah.
not only him, but I'll give you another guy who was a pro football player and member of the Hall of Fame who's on his coaching staff, Warren Sapp.
Yeah.
Sapp is just, I mean, if you've seen a couple of posts here in the last 2 or 3 weeks, he is just eating up being a defensive line coach for him. And he's just absolutely loving it. He
hmm
didn't know what to do after he retired. But and Prime was the same way until he got into coaching, started doing the things at Jackson State that he's now doing at Colorado.
hmm
Uh, I think both of them have found their niche. I don't think Sapp will be a head coach, but boy, he is a pretty darn good defensive line coach for him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know, you think those two uh, those two teams, I think they'll go opposite directions as far as bowl games are concerned. But both teams will draw. They'll bring a lot of folks,
I agree with you.
and they will sell their guarantee. Uh, the one I would say that I would like to see Colorado at would be the Alamo Bowl down at uh, San Antonio.
hmm
That would be a real good game for them. BYU would be a good one as well, but I think more Colorado than BYU.
I think for Alamo Bowl for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I
Uh,
think so.
BYU would be uh, something, say, and I don't know how the alignments are. Uh, El Paso, Sun Bowl,
Yeah.
uh, possible Arizona Bowl down at Tucson, maybe playing Tempe at one of the two they've got out there, or play out at Glendale,
hmm
where the Cardinals play, as uh, Chris Berman calls the place the Big Toaster,
Yeah.
State Farm or State Farm Stadium out in Glendale. So, but
They're
like I say, it'll be interesting to see where everybody goes.
it will be. It will be. Some of the projections for Oklahoma, the one I like the best is Oklahoma versus Nebraska.
Yes.
I think that would be a good game. There's a lot of
Oh,
people trying to push versus USC. I don't want Oklahoma to play USC, honestly. I don't.
I think Nebraska.
I would rather play
You go.
Nebraska.
You know the two big reds.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, even Randy Gibson might look at trying to get tickets to wherever the
Yep.
heck that's going to be played at.
Yep. He would.
Yep.
He would. That would be a fun game just because of the old Big Eight rivalry, from
You
many
might
years
you might
ago.
even have to uh, get into the drum line for that
That would be fun.
one.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, that would be a interesting thing.
Yeah. So we'll
Uh,
we'll hope that. But I guess we'll find out come Sunday
Sunday
night.
night, Sunday night, and then get on USA Today, and they'll show you all the matchups uh, on their site Monday morning. And a lot of people like to predict who the wins the bowl games. But
Mm-hmm.
now you got to do that bracket as far as the 12 team bracket.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So be interesting to see what happens. Basketball is getting ready to start. In fact, Talkwell was to have played last night against McAllister. I didn't see any scores on their game. Everybody else will start Friday night, and Northeastern opens up MIAA play, and they get to introduce UA Fort Smith into the MIAA. They do that tomorrow night in Fort Smith, and Fort Smith will find out that coming into the MIAA, the officiating will be a little bit better than the Lone Star Conference. So they'll find that out. I don't know how they're doing, but uh, Northeastern over 500 on both sides of the ledger for the Lady Reds and the Redmen. So we'll see what happens come tomorrow night. Then they're going to take a break because next week's finals week.
Yeah.
But we'll see how they do. And I've got a ball game tomorrow night. I got to go to Fayetteville for Arkansas and excuse me, and Boston College ACC SEC Challenge
Hmm.
tomorrow night over at Bud Walton Arena. 6 o'clock ball game. Nice thing is, I'll walk out of there about 8 o'clock. Uh, Work the Tulsa game Sunday against Creighton. Creighton looks good. Their women's team looks good. Tulsa banged up right now. Angie Nelp's 2-5 right now. Had one of her big girls on crutches
Oh,
Sunday.
really?
So they were they're a little bit banged up right now. 7 games in, and but the Americans a good league. I look for Tulsa to improve between now and say the first of the year, and then they get in the conference, and it'll be very interesting. Arkansas, on the other hand, picked 16th out of 16, and I look at my schedule, and they open up the conference January 2nd at home, and who do they get? Kim Mulkey and LSU. Not easy to start. So, well, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Cover 4 podcast. Next week, we will talk about bowl games and the CFP, where everybody lands and how those ball games could turn out.
Yep.
Uh,
Gonna be a fun
those
weekend.
five through 12 games, and the top 4 seeds wait to see who they get. And
Yep.
it'll be real interesting to see what happens. And we'll talk about next week on the Cover 4 podcast. See you later.